Hi friends, welcome to Vaibhava English Academy. Today I am here to discuss a very short poem where the mind is without fear. It is from Gitanjali and it is verse number 35. We all know this poem very well. From school days onwards, we are, taught this poem and how a man should think, how our thinking should be, and from how our action should be. And all these is summed up in this small poem, but very effective and world famous poem, Where the Mind is Without Fear by Rabindranath Tagore. Coming to Gitanjali, the central theme of Gitanjali is the realization of the divine through self purification and service to humanity. Harold Jahn commented while presenting Nobel Prize to Tagore in 1913 that, I quote, the Gitanjali is mysticism, but not a mysticism that relinquishes personality, seeks to become absorbed in all to a point of nothingness, but one that, with all the faculties of soul at highest pitch, eagerly sets forth to meet the living Father of all creation. Unquote. Here, Harold Jahn mentions one aspect about mysticism. Mysticism is understanding about one's soul and one's connection to God. And once that connection, that recognition comes to human mind, what happens? One tend to believe that we are nothing or we are one with God. But then Gitanjali is not like that. Gitanjali is Tagore's perception, where a soul with all its earthly manifestations is trying to link with God. See here, the difference is once the mystic realizes the mystery of this earth, it is that the soul and God are one. So it goes to the point of nothingness. Whereas Gitanjali, here Tagore says that the soul is here on the earth and God is there in his heaven, and Tagore is just trying to find a way to reach God. So that we can say it is one form of subtle mysticism. Moving on, coming to the poem Where the Mind is Without Fear, it is from Gitanjali, the collection, and this particular poem is verse number 35. This is widely read poem. Originally, it was titled Prarthana or Prayer. Okay, it's appeared as poem 35 in English Gitanjali, published by the India Society, London in 1912. In 1917, Tagore read out the English version titled The Indian Prayer at the Indian National Congress session in Calcutta. The poem is written in a form of prayer to God for the freedom of his country in its true sense of feeling of unity, harmony, and triumph of truth. We must read this poem while understanding the historic era. So, it was published in 1912. So, we must remember that our freedom struggle or Indian freedom struggle was at its full strength. India had not achieved independence. Independence or freedom was a big dream that was carried across the people by Indian National Congress. So that was the scenario. Indians were under the rule of British, and the political leaders were urging all Indians to unite and fight for freedom. When we talk about India, we must understand that British followed the divide and rule, that concept. Okay, India was already divided in so many forms. It has so many regions, it is multilingual, it has multiple regions, and each consisted itself as separate territory. We did not have the feeling of unity of unity that we now enjoy. Once we became independent, we all realized the importance of each parts of India and we feel the unity. But then back then in 1912, that was not the case. Okay, and there were different religions, and there were castes, there were subcastes, there were other differences as well, like rich and poor, educated and uneducated, and so on. So India was broken into an umpteen number of pieces or tracts. Okay, so to that country you have to keep that picture when you are reading this poem. Okay, So let us read the poem. This is a very simple poem, and you must be all be familiar with this poem. So you see, you cannot have passed schooling without knowing this poem. Okay, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arm towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. Where the mind is without fear has two themes. One is religious theme and patriotic theme. Here, the poem is in the form of a prayer to God. And the patriotic theme is he wants his country to be united, and the country people should he just keep their head high with dignity, with honor. They must not be enslaved. Okay, so it has two themes. One is religious theme and the other is patriotic theme. Tagore's praise, Tagore prays for the freedom of his country, and that also ideal freedom. He prays that his country becomes a place where man can keep his mind free from any fear, and he can hold his head high with respect and dignity. Tagore wishes that his country, India, should have free access to knowledge, and the narrow boundaries set by man due to caste, creed, religion, region do not exist, and the country is not broken up into small pieces. Tagore envisions a new and free India where people speak truth and man earnestly endeavors to achieve perfection. You see, here Tagore is speaking about all the virtues that freedom can provide. Only after India gains independence, all these things can happen. Indians will achieve the dignity, Indians will have access to education, knowledge, and knowledge would not be commodified. Okay, and the people will have the willpower to speak the truth. Only if there is a suitable environment, people would be encouraged to speak the truth. Otherwise, they would be enslaved and they would be repeating the lies to themselves that they are happy, right? Now let us do the line by line analysis of each of the lines. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Okay, the very first line of the poem. Here, fear refers to the fear inculcated in the minds of Indians under British rule. Here, poet is speaking about the miserable life led by people dominated by the British. The poet envisions India as a country where people's minds are free from fear and they live a dignified life. He also wants to convey that freedom can be attained only when the mind is fearless and head is held high with respect and dignity. See, it is the both way around, vice versa. You can achieve freedom when you feel you are dignified and you can keep your head high with self-respect. If you have self-respect and dignity, you can earn freedom. The other way around, you will have freedom only when you have these two. That is why Tagore is praying to God to grant his countrymen these two things, that is, a mind without fear and a head filled with self-respect. Okay, coming to the next line. Where knowledge is free, the poet says that gaining independence would also give them the freedom to acquire knowledge and be radiant with knowledge. Okay, and they become self-reliant, which in British rule would never happen. Okay, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. Here, by the word world, he is imagining his own country, which was divided into so many fragments. Yes, here, the poet speaks about various evils that crept into the society at that time. The British used the divide and rule policy and by creating rivalry among different sections of society. So, narrow domestic walls refers to religion, race, caste, and creed created by people. It also refers to various superstitious beliefs that prevailed in the society at that time. Come to the next line, where the words come out from the depth of truth. Here, the poet implies that his countrymen should live their lives with honesty and utmost truth, and there should be a system, there should be a setup that appreciates their truth and honesty. So, that happens only once India gets independence, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection. Here, personification is the figure of speech used for tireless striving. The poet says that one has to achieve their goal by striving towards it. If you are working hard towards something, you can achieve success. And here, in the scenario when this poem was written, the goal was to attain independence. The ideal country and all those years of struggle would finally reach its goal of attaining freedom and perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit. Here, the poet uses the metaphor clear stream uh, for that is pure and not contaminated, the original thoughts, the original idea that you are working up for a goal. So, that is the clear stream of reason. And the dreary desert sand of dead habit refers to once you start something and if you're not achieving success, then you tend to leave it in between. That becomes the dead habit. Okay, so Tagore prays to God that clear stream of reason should not be lost into desert sand. It must not become futile. It should not become a dead habit. Okay, a habit is something that you are practicing on a regular basis, whereas a dead habit, you practiced something once upon a time, now you are not doing that. That is a dead habit. So the energy and vigor that you have for your goal should aim should lead you to success, not to failure. Now that is what is meant. Okay, the poet uses metaphor for reason and habit. He refers to the reason as clear stream that is pure and not contaminated. He is speaking about the thoughts of people which should be clear, noble, honest, and free from all sorts of corruption. Dreary desert sand of dead habit refers to evils of society like superstitious practices and lack of logic and also reason. Here, one more thing can be added, that is, if you are losing the willpower to work for success, then it can be said that you have fallen into dead habit. Okay, so Tagore wants all the Indians to keep their vigor and energy for Indian independence, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. So these are the last three lines of the poem, and the poet prays to Almighty for his guidance and support to attain independence. The poet wishes that his countrymen be led forward by the noble thoughts and actions. He refers to freedom as heavenly place and addresses God as Father, asking him to awaken his people and help him reach that glorious place. So, in short, Tagore prays to God that India becomes independent. And how should Indians be? Indians should have self respect and dignity. They must keep their head high. They should have clear streams of reason and knowledge, and they should be willing to speak the truth. For them, education must be available, and through that, a good society should be formed. When we are speaking about a good society, it should not have divisions in it. It should be united, and it should be peaceful. It should be loving. So to that perfect heaven of peace and freedom, Tagore wants his Indians, his countrymen, to awake. Okay, coming to the theme of the poem, the the theme, the absolute theme of this poem is true freedom. True freedom in true sense. True freedom is the inner possession of man, and it can be realized only with God's help. Here again we can say the yin yang circle. Okay, that is, the both of them are interconnected. Only when you have self dignity, freedom, and all the virtues, you attain freedom. And if you have freedom, you are sure to possess all these good virtues. Thank you so much.